A woman was on the phone with her husband, an everyday thing, a voice she knew better than any other voice in the world. And while she was still on the line, he took his own life. We don't know what she said into that silence. We don't know how long she stood there before she put the phone down. Some moments are too heavy for anyone else to describe, and we won't try. But here is what we do know. In the months that followed, she became one of the loneliest human beings you could imagine. Not alone, lonely. There's a difference, and if you've ever felt it, you already understand. You can be surrounded by people and still be the only one in the room. Maybe you know something about that. Maybe your version doesn't look like hers. Maybe your version is quieter. A phone you scroll at 11 at night, full of faces, empty of friends. A house where the only sound after dinner is the television. A marriage where two people sit 3 feet apart and live in different worlds. A workplace where everyone knows your name and nobody knows you. You smile, you answer, you say you're fine, and then you drive home. And somewhere between the parking lot and the front door, the truth shows up in the passenger seat. Nobody really sees me. If that's you, even a little, stay here for the next hour, because today you're going to hear 3 true stories, 3 real people. A man whose face was on television in front of millions, who went home at night feeling invisible. A woman who was photographed for the most famous magazines in the world and felt like a ghost in her own life. And the woman from that phone call, the one the world had every reason to give up on. 3 completely different lives. 3 completely different kinds of alone, and all 3 of them, in the lowest place, ran into the same discovery. Not a technique, not a self-help plan. A line of truth, older than any of them, that had been sitting there the whole time, waiting. The strange thing is, what changed their lives wasn't what you'd expect. It wasn't finally being noticed by more people. For one of them, being noticed by millions was the problem. We'll get to that. And we will come back to the woman on the phone, because what found her in her darkest season is, honestly, the reason this video exists. These stories are real. They were shared publicly by the people who lived them, in books, in interviews, on camera, and we're telling them the way they told them. Where we don't know a detail, we'll say so, because you deserve the truth, not a performance. So let's begin with a question. What does loneliness look like when 40 million people know your face? His name is Ben. If you watched television in the United States in the middle of the last decade, you might know him already. Ben Higgins. A tall, easy-smiling guy from a small town in Indiana. In 2016, he became the star of the 20th season of a show called The Bachelor, one of the biggest reality programs in America. Cameras followed him everywhere. Magazines wrote about him. Strangers stopped him in airports. Millions of people watched him hand out roses and fall in love on screen, week after week. From the outside, he had won a lottery most people never even get a ticket for. Young, famous, liked. The kind of liked where the internet argues about you, where people you've never met feel like they know you. And here is what Ben said about that exact season of his life. He felt dissatisfied. He felt fearful. And he felt deeply, deeply alone. Hold that for a second. Don't rush past it. The most visible man on American television that spring, alone. Now, you might think, well, that's a celebrity problem. Fame is hollow. Everybody knows that. But that's not actually where Ben's story starts, and it's not why his story matters for you. Because the loneliness didn't begin when the cameras showed up. By his own account, it was there long before. Ben has described the way he saw himself growing up, and the words he chose are worth hearing slowly, because there's a good chance you've used some of them about yourself. He thought of himself as the kid who never got picked for the game, the person who was always on the outside of the joke, the friend who knew a lot of people but was never truly known. And underneath all of it sat one question, the kind of question you don't say out loud at dinner. Do I even matter? The kid who never got picked. You remember that feeling, don't you? Standing on the edge of the field while two captains chose everyone else first? Maybe for you it wasn't a field. Maybe it was a lunch table. A group chat you could see but weren't really in. A family where you were present but somehow never quite included. That feeling doesn't stay in childhood. It grows up with you. It puts on a suit, gets a job, learns to shake hands, and it keeps whispering the same sentence it whispered when you were 9. They'd be fine without you. That was the voice Ben carried. And then life handed him the strangest possible experiment. It took a young man who feared he didn't matter, and it made him famous. Think about what that should have fixed. If loneliness were a visibility problem, Ben's loneliness should have died in 2016. 40 million eyes, his name in headlines, crowds that cheered when he walked in. If being seen by more people could fill the hole, his hole should have been the fullest in America. Instead, the hole got louder. Because here's what Ben discovered, and he later put it almost exactly this way. There is an enormous difference between being seen and being known. People knew who he was. Nobody knew him. They knew the character on the screen, the edited, smiling, rose-handing version. They didn't know the fear. They didn't know the 3 a.m. questions. They didn't know the man who could stand in a room full of admirers and feel like he was watching it all through glass. He would later call this exact condition being alone in plain sight, seen by everyone, known by no one. And can we be honest with each other for a moment? You don't need a television show to live there. Social media handed all of us a miniature version of Ben's experiment. You post the good photo, you get the likes. You are, in a small way, seen, maybe by hundreds of people. And how does it feel an hour later? Emptier. Always emptier. Because deep down you know they saw the photo, not you. The gap between your profile and your heart is the loneliest distance in the modern world. Ben just lived it at a scale most of us never will. So what do you do when the thing everybody envies turns out to be hollow? Ben did what most of us do. He kept performing. Keep smiling. Keep showing up. Keep being the version of you that people seem to want. Because the alternative, letting someone see the unedited version, felt like suicide for whatever love he was getting. That was his actual fear, the engine under all of it. If people really knew me, all of me, the insecurity and the doubt and the mess, they would leave. Vulnerability felt like it would push everyone away. Read that fear again, slowly, because it might be living in your house too. If they really knew me, they would leave. That single sentence builds more prisons than any government ever has. It's why you say, "I'm fine," when you're drowning. It's why you're funny at the party and hollow in the car. It's why some of you have been married for years to someone who has never once seen you cry. The fear isn't irrational, it's protective. It just has one fatal flaw. The walls that keep out rejection also keep out love. You can't be loved by people you won't let in. So the performance succeeds, and the loneliness deepens. And round it goes. Ben was in that loop. Famous, admired, performing, starving. We don't know the exact day things began to turn for him. He hasn't pinned it to a single dramatic moment, and we won't invent one for him. What he has shared is the direction. At some point, terrified, he started doing the one thing his fear had forbidden. He started letting people in. Not into the highlight reel, into the insecurities, the real ones, the "do I even matter" ones. He began saying true things about himself out loud to actual people, and bracing for the abandonment he was sure would follow. And the abandonment didn't come. What came instead shocked him. Connection. Real, weight-bearing connection. He has said that opening up about his insecurities, instead of pushing people away, allowed him to feel truly known for the first time. The first time. A man who had been watched by millions had to whisper his weaknesses to a few people to finally feel like he existed. Let that reorder something in your head. The cure wasn't a bigger audience. It was a deeper honesty with a smaller one. But there was a second layer to what Ben found, and this is the part that takes his story from helpful to holy. Because as he dug into his loneliness, Ben, a man of faith who had wandered and wrestled like most of us do, kept bumping into a claim at the center of the Bible that suddenly read completely differently. The claim is this: the God who made you is not a distant manager of the universe. He is, at his core, a God who longs for relationship, who wants to be let in, who already sees the unedited version of you, every insecurity Ben was hiding, every one you're hiding, and who, seeing all of it, stays. Ben came to describe God as the actual answer to the need for connection, not a religious add-on to his recovery. The ground floor of it. Because there is exactly one person you never have to perform for. One person who cannot be surprised by your mess. One person for whom, if they really knew me, is already finished. He really knows you. He stayed anyway. In 2021, Ben put all of this into a book so that the millions who knew his face could finally know his heart. And, more importantly, so that people like you, who carry the same secret, would have words for it. He gave the condition its name, alone in plain sight. And in the years since, married now, a father now, he has kept saying the same thing in interviews, including with Christian broadcasters just this past year, because the message hasn't worn out. It is often through our pain, not our successes, that we experience genuine connection with people and with God. The kid who never got picked found out he had been chosen the whole time. We'll come back to what that means for you, but first, pause with me here, because something in Ben's story needs to be said directly to you before we meet the second person. Maybe you've been waiting to be seen, waiting for the promotion that makes them notice, the post that finally lands, the day your family realizes what they have in you. Ben got all of that, multiplied by 40 million, and it left him hungrier. So hear this gently. If you are waiting for attention to cure your loneliness, you are waiting for salt water to cure your thirst. Being seen is not the same as being known. And being known requires the one thing you've been avoiding, letting someone past the performance. Maybe a friend, maybe a spouse who's been on the other side of your wall for years. And maybe, before any of them, the God who Ben discovered was never fooled by the performance anyway. You don't have to do anything about that yet. Just carry the question into the next story. Who actually knows me? Because our second person was seen by the whole world too. Her loneliness didn't hide behind a smile on a television set. It hid behind the most photographed kind of face there is. Her name is Jennifer. Jennifer Strickland's story starts about as innocently as a story can start. A little girl in California who liked things just so. Her shoes lined up in the closet exactly right. Her shirts folded neatly in the drawer. A careful, precise, eager to please little girl. The kind teachers love and nobody worries about. When she was around 8 years old, her mother signed her up for a modeling class at a local charm school. The idea wasn't fame. It was grace. Help the girl become a little more coordinated, a little more confident. Jennifer loved it. More than loved it. For a girl wired toward perfection, modeling school was a world that finally made sense. Stand this way, smile this way, be looked at, and be approved. She fit. And she was good. So good that at 17, 2 letters arrived in the same season of her life. One was an academic scholarship to the University of Southern California. This was a genuinely bright young woman. The other was a modeling contract from Nina Blanchard, one of the most powerful agents in the business. Most girls in that world would have traded years of their life for either letter. Jennifer got both. What followed, by every outside measure, was a dream unfolding on schedule. The summer after high school, she was working in Germany, then France, Greece, Australia, Italy. She walked the runway for Giorgio Armani, one of the most famous designers alive. Her face appeared in Vogue, Glamour, 17, Cosmopolitan. She shot campaigns for Oil of Olay, for Converse, for Mercedes-Benz. Flying between continents, juggling photo shoots and university classes, being professionally beautiful in the world's most glamorous cities. Stop and picture her for a moment. 20 years old, walking through Milan with a portfolio under her arm, hundreds of photographs of her own face in circulation across the planet. If the measure of being seen is the number of eyes on you, Jennifer Strickland was one of the most seen young women of her generation. Now listen to the sentence she uses to describe what was actually happening inside that picture. She says, "I went hard after perfection until it nearly killed me." Until it nearly killed me. She is not exaggerating, and you're about to see why. Because here's the thing about a world that loves you for your image. It is a world that, by definition, never loves you. It loves this surface, and it grades the surface. Every casting was a judgment. Every measurement was a verdict. The camera saw everything and knew nothing. Thousands of people looked at Jennifer every single day, through magazines, through billboards, through the lens, and not one of those looks could answer the question every human heart asks, am I loved? Not is my skin good, not is my walk right. Am I, the actual person inside this body, loved? Do you see where this is going? Then was alone in plain sight in front of TV cameras. Jennifer was alone in plain sight in front of still cameras. Same prison, different wallpaper. And her prison had a cruelty Ben's didn't. Because in her world, the surface was the product. So when the loneliness and the pressure started to crush her, they crushed her in the one place everyone was watching. Her body. She went after the perfect size, she says, the perfect shape, the perfect image, the perfect look. Being the perfect daughter, taking the perfect path. Perfection was the only language she had ever been taught for earning love. Remember the little girl with the lined-up shoes? And now perfection had become a furnace, and she was feeding herself into it. An eating disorder took hold. The industry kept grading. The pressure kept climbing. By the time Jennifer was 22 years old, here is what the dream looked like up close. She had become extremely thin. Her hair turned brittle and began falling out in clumps. The sockets of her eyes had gone dark. The girl whose face had sold beauty to the world was watching her own body break down in the mirror. And the industry that had applauded her, the industry that was supposed to be her family, her identity, her world, did exactly what a world that only loves surfaces does when the surface cracks. The jobs dropped off. That's all. No rescue. No phone call asking if she was okay. The bookings just quietly stopped. She had given that world her childhood, her health, her sense of self. And when she had nothing left to photograph, it simply looked away. If you have ever been valued for what you produce and discarded the moment you couldn't produce it, you know the exact temperature of that loneliness. It's the coldest kind there is. Some of you felt it when the company you gave 15 years to laid you off by email. Some of you felt it when your usefulness to your family ended, and so, apparently, did your invitations. The world had taught Jennifer the same lesson it may have taught you. You are your output, and when the output dies, you find out exactly how alone you've been the whole time. Depression moved in, and Jennifer reached the point, her own account, where she wanted to give up. A 22-year-old woman, far from home, in cities full of millions of people, photographed by the best photographers alive, wanting to stop existing. Her heart, as she put it later, hit rock bottom. Sit in that contradiction one more time, because it's the engine of this whole video. The most looked at people on Earth, starving to death, sometimes literally, for one look that actually sees them. Now, we don't know everything about the days that came next. Jennifer has told her story in books and interviews, and some rooms of it she has kept private, which is her right. But the door she has shown us, the hinge her whole life turned on, was almost embarrassingly simple. While she was in Europe, in the middle of that collapse, some people invited her to church. That's it. That's the dramatic turning point. No vision, no lightning, an invitation. Somebody looked at a hollowed-out model whose jobs were drying up and saw a person worth inviting. And somewhere in that season, Jennifer did something she had never once done in her entire image-saturated life. She opened a Bible and began to read it for herself. The first time. Think about what she was holding. Her world had handed her thousands of pages of glossy paper, and every page had used her. Now she was holding tattered pages, her word. And what she found in them was the exact inversion of everything the cameras had taught her. She found, in her own words, a relationship with a God who valued her more than she ever imagined. Valued her. Not her measurements. The industry had those on file. And had stopped calling. Not her face. The face was on magazine covers in 100 countries, and she had still wanted to die. The pages said something no camera had ever said, and no camera ever could. I see you. The actual you. The one inside. I made that one. And I have never once looked away. She would spend the rest of her life unpacking that discovery, that her body was not her worth, that the eyes of God see what the lens never could. The proof is in where she ended up. Jennifer got out. She healed. Not instantly, not effortlessly. Eating disorders and depression don't evaporate, and she has never pretended they do. But today, decades later, she is an author and a speaker. She married a Texan she adores. She raised 3 children. And here is the detail that tells you everything about what changed. She learned to cook from the grandmothers of Italy, the same country where the industry had starved her. She now makes the spaghetti sauce she's famous for among her friends. The place of her hunger became the place of her feast, and she spends her time speaking in schools, in churches, and in prisons and recovery centers, with people the world has fully stopped looking at, telling girls that the lies are screaming so loudly they can't hear the voice of God. She wants them to hear the voice, the one that sees. The most photographed girl nobody saw became a woman convinced she had been seen all along. 2 stories now. Lay them side by side for a second, because you're in this picture somewhere. Ben, known by millions, known by no one. Jennifer, looked at by millions, loved by no camera. One performed a personality, one performed the body. Both nearly drowned behind the performance, and both surfaced at the same place. The discovery that there is a God who knows the unperformed version and wants that one. Now turn it toward yourself, gently. What's your performance? Everybody has one. Maybe yours is competence. You're the strong one, the reliable one, the one who fixes everyone's problems and would rather die than admit you have your own. Maybe yours is cheerfulness. You're the funny one, and your friends would be stunned to know what your 3 a.m. thoughts sound like. Maybe yours is success. Maybe it's spirituality. Yes, even church can be a runway. And some of you are lonelier in a pew than you've ever been anywhere. Performing a faith you're terrified to admit is running on fumes. Whatever the performance is, here's the question Ben's story and Jennifer's story both press into your hand. How long do you plan to keep it up? Because the math doesn't change. The applause feeds the image. The person starves. And maybe right now you're thinking, fine for them. They were famous. When they fell, there were authors and broadcasters waiting to hear about it. My loneliness has no cameras. Nobody's writing a book about my kitchen at midnight. If I disappeared from my own life, the world wouldn't even shift its weight. I'm so glad you said that, because the 3rd story is for you. The first 2 people were found at the top of the world. The 3rd was found at the very bottom of it, in a place so dark, surrounded by wreckage so complete that if God can see someone there, He can see anyone. He can see you. This is the woman from the phone call, and we're going back to her now. People call her Miss Sallie. Before we tell her story, one promise. Everything you're about to hear, she has told publicly herself, on camera, in her own home, to a Christian television crew that came to film her testimony. We will not dress it up, and we will not invent a single detail. Her life doesn't need decoration. It needs witnesses. For the next few minutes, that's you. Sallie's loneliness didn't begin with a phone call. It began the way the deepest loneliness almost always begins, in childhood, at the hands of people who were supposed to be safe. She endured abuse growing up, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. And here is the detail that should stop you cold. It came from friends and family members, not strangers. The inner circle. The people whose job was to protect her were the people she needed protection from. You need to understand what that does to a soul. Because some of you don't need it explained. You need it acknowledged. When the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you, you don't just lose safety. You lose the very possibility of closeness. Other people learn that connection is shelter. You learned that connection is where the knives are. So you survive the only way a child can. You go away inside. You build a person for the outside world to deal with, and you hide the real ones somewhere deep, somewhere no one can reach, which means somewhere no one can love. That is loneliness at its most absolute, not the absence of people. The learned certainty that letting people near you is how you get destroyed. Sallie grew up carrying that certainty, and pain that deep always goes looking for anesthetic. For her, it was drugs and alcohol. The addiction wrapped itself around her years, and her life kept descending into places polite society doesn't even like to name. At one point, she wasn't just surviving the street's economy of used people. She was running a part of it. She operated a prostitution ring. A woman who had been used her whole life, now managing the using of others. That's what unhealed wounds do. They don't stay wounds. They become systems. We're not going to sensationalize any of that, and notice that she didn't either. She sat in her own living room and said it plainly to a camera. Because she wanted people like you to know exactly how far down her story goes. Remember where the bottom is. It matters in a minute. And then came the phone call. You already know it. It's how we opened. Sallie was on the phone with her husband, and while she was on the line with him, he shot himself. He was gone before she could do anything but hear it happen. We are not going to imagine that moment for you. We weren't there, and some doors you don't open for an audience, but think about what that loss lands on. This is not a woman with a support system absorbing a tragedy. This is a woman whose childhood taught her that love is dangerous, whose adult life had been chemical numbness and survival, and now the person bound to her by marriage was gone. In an instant. In her ear. In a way that would leave anyone asking the unanswerable questions for the rest of their life. Why? What did I miss? What could I have said? After that, by her own account, Sallie was ready to die. Not in a poetic sense. She had reached the end of wanting to exist. Abused by family, hollowed by addiction, widowed by suicide. If anyone on this planet had earned the conclusion that no one sees me, no one wants me, and no one is coming, it was her. Now I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer it honestly inside yourself before the story continues. If you had passed Sallie in a store in those days, the addiction visible, the history written on her, would you have seen anything worth stopping for? Would anyone? Be honest. We walk past the Sallies of the world every single day. We've trained our eyes not to land on them. Somebody's eyes landed on her. A Christian man crossed paths with Sallie in that season. We don't know much about him. The testimony doesn't give us his biography. And honestly, his ordinariness is the point. What we know is what he did. He looked at a woman the whole world had filed under hopeless, and he saw past her brokenness. Those are the words from her own testimony. He saw past it, past the addiction, past the history, past every visible reason to keep walking, to the person buried underneath. The one Sallie had hidden away as a child and assumed no one would ever come looking for. And he didn't just see her, he spoke to her about God, about what God had done in his own life. And then he did the simplest thing in this entire hour of stories. The same thing someone did for Jennifer in Europe. He took her to church. Underline that, because the pattern is now undeniable. 3 lives, 3 rescues, and not one of them began with a miracle in the sky. Every single one began with a human being refusing to look away. People letting Ben past the performance, people inviting a collapsing model to a service, a man seeing past a broken woman's wreckage. Heaven, it turns out, makes a habit of arriving with skin on. Hold on to that. It's about to become an assignment. What happened next in Sallie's life, her testimony calls a dramatic change. God took hold of a woman who was ready to die and rebuilt her from the inside. Was it instant? Was it tidy? Decades of trauma and addiction don't usually leave quietly, and we won't claim details her testimony doesn't give. But the destination is public record, and the destination is staggering. Sallie lived. Sallie healed. Sallie married again, a man who shares her faith. And here is where you have to smile at how God writes endings. The woman who once ran a prostitution ring now runs something else with her husband. A Christian rock band. It's called Bearing Armor. She stands in front of people, this woman who spent a lifetime hiding the real Sallie from everyone. And she ministers, out loud, in public, about all of it. That's why a television crew ended up in her house with cameras. The woman nobody saw became a woman who cannot stop being seen, because she finally has something worth showing. Not a performance this time, a rescue. The kid who never got picked, the girl whose jobs dropped off, the widow ready to die. 3 bottoms, 1 floor. So now we have to ask the only question that matters for the next 20 minutes of your life. What exactly did all 3 of them find down there? Because it wasn't willpower. Sallie's was gone. It wasn't positive thinking. You don't think your way out of a phone call like hers. All 3 of them, in different words, describe colliding with the same specific truth. And it turns out that truth has a name. It's one of the oldest names for God in the entire Bible, and the story of how God got that name might be the most important thing you hear today. Because the person who gave it to him was not a king, not a prophet, not a hero. She was a runaway slave woman, alone in a desert, and she might understand your loneliness better than anyone you've ever met. Her name was Hagar. Her story sits in Genesis, the very first book of the Bible, and it's astonishing how few people know it. Hagar was an Egyptian slave, property in the household of Abraham and Sarah. She had no rights, no voice, no say even over her own body. When her mistress needed a child, Hagar was simply used for it. And when the arrangement curdled into cruelty, she was treated harshly until she broke. So she ran. A pregnant slave woman, alone, on foot. Into the wilderness, which in that world was a slow way to die. No family, no protector. No one even looking for her except as lost property. If you want a picture of a human being utterly unseen, it's Hagar by that desert spring. Lower than Ben's loneliness, lower than Jennifer's, as low as Sallie's, the bottom of the ancient world. And the Bible records that it was there, of all places, that God showed up. Not at the palace, at the spring in the wasteland, to the slave girl. He called her by name. He told her she was not finished, that her child had a future, that her story was known from beginning to end. And Hagar's response is one of the most remarkable sentences in all of Scripture. She gave God a name. She called him in the old King James wording of Genesis chapter 16, verse 13, "Thou God seest me." In her language, the name is El Roi, the God who sees me. Now here's the detail that scholars love to point out. The small fact that turns this from a nice story into a thunderclap. Search the whole Bible, every prophet, every king, every apostle, and Hagar is the only person recorded as giving God a name of her own. Not Abraham, the friend of God. Not Moses, who met him in fire. A foreign slave woman at the end of her rope. God let the loneliest person in the story be the one who names him. And the name she chose wasn't the God who thunders, wasn't the God who conquers. It was the one thing her whole life had taught her no one would ever do. He sees me. Think of it like this. In a world of security cameras, being watched is cheap. Every store watches you. But there's a difference between a camera and a grandmother at the window waiting for your car. Both technically see you arrive. Only one has been looking for you. Hagar's name for God is the second kind of seeing, not surveillance, vigil. And the Bible never lets go of that thread. 1,000 years after Hagar, a shepherd king named David stretched her discovery across an entire song, Psalm 139. Listen to what he wrote, and remember every midnight you've ever spent feeling invisible. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You understand my thoughts from far away. And then David asks the question loneliness always asks, where could I go from your presence? And answers it from every direction. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I say the darkness will cover me, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night shines like the day. Even the darkness is not dark to him. The bathroom floor at 2 a.m. is not dark to him. The car in the parking lot where you sit before you can face the house, not dark. The hospital waiting room, the empty side of the bed, the silence after the funeral when everyone else went home, not dark. Not one of them. Not ever. And one more piece, the deepest one. Have you ever wondered why loneliness hurts the way it does? Why being unseen registers in the body almost like physical pain? The Bible's answer comes on its very first pages. When God surveyed his new creation, the Bible says he looked at everything he had made and called it good. Light, good. Land, good. Life, good. Then, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, God says the first not good in human history. And it isn't about sin. Sin hasn't even entered the story yet. He said, "It is not good that the man should be alone." Before anything ever went wrong in this world, the one thing God refused to call good was a lonely human being. That ache in you isn't weakness. It isn't neediness. It's design. You were built for being known, the way lungs were built for air, which is exactly why the performance, the image, the wall can never be enough. You can't breathe applause. And if some part of you is still holding back, still thinking, that's beautiful, but a God in heaven can't really know what this feels like from the inside, then there is one more thing you need to see, and it might be the most tender fact in the entire Bible. The Christian faith makes a claim no other faith dares to make, that the God who sees became a man who felt. And when you read the record of his last night on earth, do you know what you find at the center of it? Loneliness. Real, human, crushing loneliness. In a garden called Gethsemane, on the night before his death, Jesus took his 3 closest friends with him and told them plainly that his soul was overwhelmed with sorrow, and he asked them for the smallest thing a friend can ask. Stay here and watch with me. Just stay awake. Just be with me. And they fell asleep. He came back and found them sleeping 3 times. The loneliest hour of his life, and the people he loved couldn't keep their eyes open for it. Hours later, when the soldiers came, the Gospels recorded in one devastating line: "They all forsook him and fled." Every friend he had. And the next afternoon, nailed up in the dark, he cried out the question that every lonely heart has whispered into a ceiling: my God, why have you forsaken me?" Do you understand what that means for you? It means the God who sees you is not watching your loneliness from a safe distance, the way the cameras watched Ben and Jennifer. He has been inside it. He knows what it costs to be surrounded and abandoned at the same time, to ask someone to stay and watch them leave, to feel even heaven go silent. When you tell him you feel alone, you are not explaining a foreign concept to a comfortable king. You are talking to the only friend you have who has been to the absolute bottom of it, further down than Ben, further than Jennifer, further than Sallie, further than you. And who went there, the Bible says, on purpose, so that abandonment would never again get the last word over anyone who reaches for him. He doesn't just see your loneliest room. He has lived in it, and he walked out of it carrying a promise with your name somewhere in it. "I will never leave you, nor forsake you." So now the whole hour comes together, and you can see what Ben and Jennifer and Sallie actually found at their 3 different bottoms. The same thing Hagar found at hers. Not a coping strategy, a pair of eyes. The discovery that the question, "Do I even matter?" Ben's question, your question, had been answered before they asked it, by a God who had been watching the unedited version all along, the way a grandmother watches the road. Ben found him as the God you never have to perform for. Jennifer found him as the God who values what the camera can't photograph. Sallie found him as the God who saw past the wreckage. And notice, he even introduced himself to her the way he introduced himself to Hagar, through eyes. A man who saw past her brokenness. El Roy makes house calls, and he usually borrows human faces to do it. 3 people, 1 God who sees, and now, you. Because let's be honest about why you're still here. 50 minutes into a video about other people's lives. You're not here for Ben. You're not here for Jennifer or Sallie. Something in their stories kept catching on something in yours. So before we close, let's stop talking about them entirely. Let's talk about you. Maybe you're the strong one, the one everybody calls, the one who shows up with casseroles and solutions, the one who has held everyone's hand except, when was the last time anyone held yours? You've been so busy being needed that you've forgotten what it feels like to be known. Your loneliness wears a cape. Nobody checks on the strong one. God sees you. Maybe you're the one in the crowded house. Married, maybe. Kids, maybe. Noise everywhere, and somehow you've never felt more invisible. You could set your loneliness down in the middle of the dinner table, and no one would notice it among the dishes. You feel guilty even calling it loneliness because, look, you're surrounded. Hear it from Genesis. Surrounded was never the standard. Known was. God sees you. Maybe you're the one the phone forgot. The friendships went quiet so gradually, you can't even name the year it happened. Retirement took the office away, or the kids took their lives elsewhere, or the funeral took the one person who really knew you. And now the evenings are very, very long. You've started talking to the television, or to the dog, and laughing at yourself for it, and the laugh has an edge. God sees you. Maybe you're young, and nobody believes your loneliness because your generation is supposedly the most connected in history. 400 followers and not one person you could call from a hospital? You've typed how you really feel into a message a dozen times and deleted it a dozen times. The kid on the edge of the field, holding a phone now. God sees you. Or maybe you're closer to Sallie than you've ever told a living soul. The history nobody knows. The thing that was done to you, or the thing you did, that built the wall everyone since has bounced off of. You've decided the real you is unpresentable, so no one has ever met them. Friend, listen. The God who walked into a desert for a runaway slave, the God who saw past Sallie's wreckage without flinching, he has already seen your basement. All of it. And he's still here. That's the entire gospel of this hour. He sees, and he stays. So what do you actually do with this? Not someday, tonight. Let me hand you the 3 moves these stories have been teaching all along. Not as homework, just as open doors. The first move is the one Hagar made, and it's almost insultingly simple. Talk to the God who is already watching. Tonight, when the house goes quiet and the loneliness sits down next to you like it always does, say something to him. Out loud, if you can. Whispered is fine. Clumsy is fine. You don't need church words. Hagar didn't have any. Tell him the truth you've never put in words. I feel unseen. I'm so tired of performing. If you really see me, let me know it. That's a whole prayer. That may be the most honest prayer that's left your lips in years. And you will be praying it to a God whose oldest names is literally the answer to it. Some of you should go further tonight and read Psalm 139 for yourself. It's 2 minutes long. Read it slowly. And everywhere David says, me, have the nerve to mean yourself. The second move is the one Ben made, and it's the scary one. Let one human being past the performance. Not everyone, not the internet. One safe, ordinary person. A friend, a spouse, a pastor, a sister, and one true sentence you've been editing out. Actually, I've been really lonely lately. I know what the fear says. The fear says they'll be uncomfortable, they'll think less of you, they'll leave. Ben's fear said the same thing, word for word, and Ben's fear was wrong. Yours probably is too. And even if that one conversation wobbles, you will have done the bravest thing a lonely person can do. You will have come out of plain sight. And the third move, this is the one nobody expects, and it might be the most powerful medicine in this entire hour. Become the seer. Think about how every rescue in these stories arrived. A person who looked. The ones who let Ben be real. The churchgoers in Europe who invited a starving model to a service. The man who saw past Sallie's brokenness. None of them were impressive. All of them were paying attention. Well, now you know what loneliness looks like from the inside, which means you can spot it from the outside better than almost anyone. The coworker who's always fine. The widower at the end of the pew. The teenager who's funny in exactly the way you used to be funny. This week, pick one of them and do the Elroy thing with your own 2 eyes. See them. Say their name. Ask the second question, not, how are you, but the one that comes after they say, fine. You may discover the strangest law of the lonely heart. It heals fastest while it's busy seeing someone else. And you may never know, this side of heaven, that you were the answer to somebody's bathroom floor prayer, the way a stranger was the answer to Sallie's. Now, before the ending, The honest part. Because we promised you truth, not a performance, and hope that ignores reality isn't hope, it's marketing. Hear this clearly. None of these stories ended with the pain simply vanishing. Jennifer's healing from the eating disorder and the depression took real time. She has never claimed otherwise. Sallie still lived every day after that phone call as a woman who had heard it. Coming to faith didn't unring it. Ben still has the wiring of the kid on the edge of the field. He says so. Being seen by God didn't delete their stories. It did something better. It meant they never again had to carry those stories unseen. There's a kind of loneliness that's circumstance, and circumstances can take years to change, and some, like grief, never fully do. But there's a deeper loneliness underneath it, the certainty that no one truly knows, and no one truly stays. And that one, the worst one, the one that was killing all three of them, can end. Theirs did. It ended the day the question changed from, "Does anyone see me?" to, "What does the one who sees me say?" So here, at the end, is what he says. It's been threaded through every story tonight. Now take it for yourself, plainly. You, the one watching this right now, in whatever room and whatever hour and whatever state your life is in. You have never spent one moment of your existence unobserved by the God who made you. He saw the childhood, including the parts that should never have happened. He saw every night you performed and every night you paid for it afterward. He has counted. The psalm says, every toss and turn. He knew the words of this video would find you before you clicked on it. You have been the grandmother's window, not the security camera. Looked for, not just looked at. The kid on the edge of the field was picked before the game started. The model's worth was set before the first photograph. The widow on the phone was already, even in that moment, inside the vigil of God. Hagar named him in a desert 4,000 years ago, and the name has not expired. Thou, God, seest me. The woman from the phone call sings now, out loud, on stages, next to a husband who knows her whole story. If you had told her that on the worst night of her life, she could not have believed you. So if you can't believe it tonight about yourself, that's all right. You don't have to believe the ending yet. You just have to say the prayer from the desert and let him start. God who sees me, see me now. He already does. He already is. And he stays. If one of these stories felt like looking in a mirror, would you do something small before you go? Leave a comment and just say which one? Ben, Jennifer, or Sallie? You'd be amazed who reads these comments at 2 in the morning and finds out they're not the only one. That's half the medicine right there. And if you want more true stories like this one, stories of real people who hit the bottom and found someone already standing there, subscribe so the next one can find you. Until then, you are not invisible. You never were. Good night.